And like every episode, I never know if I'm live or if I'm not live. Hello, God bless, and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty. You're watching the Godlogic Project, where we discuss maintaining a Christian worldview in a post-Christian America. We do a lot of recovery episodes here, and tonight is no different. I've got a guy on the line now. We're going to do this electronically, remote, over the internet interview from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This guy is he called me, he emailed me, called me, we talked, and this guy's got a tremendous story of recovery, and not just recovery where he's doing the right things, but recovery that he's going beyond the minimum to do the right things. I really want you to introduce you to this guy. If you got a newcomer, if you're a newcomer, less than a year or two, or if you know a newcomer, it might be a good time to sit down with them and have them listen to this guy's story, because that's what struck me when I did my preliminary interview with Randy. I'm going to introduce you to him in a second, but first, the intro music. Hello, God bless, and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty, and this is the Godlogic Project.
Shut up, Kevin.
That's right, I'm Kevin. That's Mike telling me to shut up like he does every week. I've got my friend Randy Clark on via the Zoom app here. Well, it's not in the studio. Everybody's always in the studio. In this case, we're doing it over the internet. I want to introduce you guys, and we'll kind of unpack what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Randy, say hello to the world, buddy. You're about to be famous.
Hey, just want to say hello, and I'm completely honored to be able to share my testimony. I just said a quiet little prayer. Just, hey, God, let there be less of me and more of you in this story.
That's exactly right. So we abide in the vine, and we don't measure the fruit. You know, that's God's business. Our business is abiding in the vine. People get tired of that. Hear me preach. Get tired of me referring to John 15. But it's been a big part of my life, and not just my recovery life, but my life in terms of keeping things simple and keeping myself out of the equation, because in and of myself, I'm a train wreck. In and of myself, I pretty much have ruined everything in my life. But through Christ and my abiding in that vine, things tend to go generally pretty smooth. So this is the easiest version of Kevin I've ever had to be in my life. It really is. Before we get started, Randy, I want to encourage folks to subscribe to the Godlogic Project. Give it a thumbs up. Comment down below, positive or negative. I'll respond to all of them. If there's something I can do for you guys, would it be recovery or through your Christian walk or your spiritual walk, email me, godlogicproject@gmail.com. I have resources available here in the state of Florida and beyond the state of Florida now. And I will, if I can't help you, I'll find somebody that can. I'll steer you in the right direction. Email me anytime, godlogicproject@gmail.com. I'll be glad to help if I can. And in fact, emailing me at godlogicproject@gmail.com, Randy, is how you and I met a couple weeks ago, right?
Absolutely.
So we have some mutual friends. Did you watch a podcast and email me, or you were referred by Steve?
I watched Steven Sundquist, and
Mike.
We're friends. You know, he's got the same heart for the industry, same heart for God, and I was like, hey, I wonder if he'd be interested in my story. And we all want the same thing, which is we want to be able to inspire hope.
Yeah, I think we tend to see that we see all the defeats, and there's a lot of defeats, there's a lot of losses in recovery, and that's why old timers like me and now you, we celebrate the victories more because they're so few and far between. And I've had guys on the show, if you go back through the other episodes, and I'll put one of those card things up here for my buddies Matt and John. It was amazing to be part of their recovery from transitional living into leadership and business owners, and just great guys. And I'll put a link to that video in the description below, and make sure that if I figure out how to do it, I'll get a card either here or here during the video. I'll be pointing at it right now, although we can't see it yet. So tell me a little bit. We're going to do kind of a what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now format. And I want to spend a lot of time on what happened. I was amazed by when you and I spoke and you gave me your testimony. I was amazed by the footwork you did to really excel and explode into recovery. Where a lot of people, they want to get the ankle monitor off, they want their wife back, they want their job back, they want to whatever it is. And once they get those things, they tend to be gone. So I hate to sound cynical. Maybe after 30 years of the recovery business, I'm a cynical guy. But it seems to me people tend to want to recover from the consequences of their addiction and not necessarily the addiction itself. They haven't fully surrendered unconditionally to a new life, but you have. So your story is a little more amazing to somebody like me, and it's something I would celebrate if you and I were going through this process together. I'd be amazed to see the transition. So I want to hear kind of what it was like. What was what was your childhood like briefly, your family, and what do you think transitioned you into drug use?
Gotcha. Well, first of all, let me apologize up front and say it's very difficult to tell my story, not get a little emotional because of where I was at and where I am today.
Amen.
So, listen, I grew up in a good childhood. My dad was a Marine. I eventually became a Marine, a loving family. So I don't have a good excuse to say I was abused or I have trauma. Okay. I didn't really pick up my first drink until, Mom and Dad, if you're listening, I drank the last couple of years of high school, you know. So I know, disclaimer, that I started drinking, and from the get-go, I was never a 1 or 2 beer drinker, would always drink and to feel the effects. And with that, I started to thin it a little more and was able to, for any law enforcement, if you're listening, was able to get a fake ID at 18 or 19 years old and be able to start clubbing. And from there, the alcohol was just a gateway to having a personality and being able to feel comfortable. And it was never social. Right. And when I say social, it was never just 1 or 2. It was always to the extreme. And it was something that when I drank, I felt whole, you know? And so I went in the Marine Corps, had 1 or 2 incidences that resulted in some discipline or some disciplinary action because of the drinking. But I tell you, even though I was able to hold a job and do well in the Marine Corps and things like that, my addiction didn't really take off until I picked up my first drug at 26, 27 years old. I got out of the Marine Corps and I started working for a $1 billion company in sales and in outside sales, and was introduced to cocaine by a girl, and that's when it really started to take a toll on itself. That took me to my knees. Yeah. I mean, is that the short answer?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of then have an Adam and Eve type of testimony. But the only kidding, ladies. But the you had like a lot of people, and like me, it started with alcohol. Now, it started very, mom and dad, my parents have passed away, so I'll tell your parents. Mom and dad, I drank very young. So I was in trouble when I was a kid, right? But I don't have fond memories of my drinking, right? So I don't struggle with maybe it'll be better this time, or it'll be like it used to be, because from what I recall, it was always bad. So I was never a toes in the sand Corona drinker. I was always, a bottle of Jack Daniels between my legs at 100 miles an hour drinker, and so it never went well for me. So in that case, we had the gift of desperation. We hold that in common, that there's no thought, or for me anyway, and I hope for you, of saying, well, maybe this time it'll be different. It's not going to be different. It's going to be as horrible as it was. Make sense?
Well, and I'll elaborate that, but let me back up here real quick. It's funny you're talking about the Adam and Eve thing where the girl, tempted the guy. And, I had heard a sermon one time at church, and they were talking about Eve eating the apple. And I went home to my now fiance, and I was like, just want to let you know, heard a sermon, and I just want to tell you thanks, thanks. And she's like, where was Eve? Or she's like, where was Adam in this whole thing? He's supposed to be leading. I was like, okay, I'll take that responsibility. So yeah.
So your girlfriend clearly recognizes scripture, because that's true.
She is much biblically more mature than I am. But yes, she basically called me on. It's like, you were supposed to be there leading. So. And
the first thing God challenges Adam, and the very first thing Adam says is, well, the woman you gave me. So he's blaming God, he's blaming the woman, the last person. He must have been an alcoholic, because the last person he's going to blame in this situation is himself.
The video
right?
froze, just so you know.
Yeah, it'll unfreeze. It's Wi-Fi. But you look great frozen, bro. So anyway, we'll keep going. So things got pretty bad. Then I guess after the Marine Corps, what happened? The drugs started to really take effect, or how did that? Yeah, how do you get from drinking a few beers?
Let me encompass 17 years of using in 2 minutes. Okay.
Perfect.
So basically, what happened was, I was making 6 figures before I was 30. I was, I didn't have a college degree. I was in a industry that you needed a college degree, but what I could do well was create relationships. Okay. What happened is I let the money and the status and being number one define me. I had a personality with no character. I mean, I knew right from wrong. Okay. And I let that lead me down a trail of being open to do anything that anybody wanted, as long as it would result in more business. You want to go to strip clubs, you want to go here, want to go here. It didn't matter. I had no value system when it came to what I wouldn't do in order to grow business.
Yeah.
Okay. 17 years. I lost the relationship with my daughter. Ooh. And I found myself in a couple different homeless shelters. My parents and my brothers did everything that a family would do that loved their son. But I can tell you that if love was a qualifier to get you sober, I would have been sober. If consequences were a qualifier to get you sober, I would have been sober. There's nothing out there externally that was going to fix this internal problem. So, I mean, if probation was enough, I would have got sober. Nothing mattered except my entire life was revolved around the next drink or drug. Every time I thought there was a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, I'd call my dad and say, "Hey, Dad, I got another job. I got another job. I just gotta get from this paycheck to that paycheck." And everything was always, I'm right on the verge of getting my life together. But the light at the end of the tunnel for an addict and addiction is the oncoming train, because it's a paycheck, and if I can just get to that paycheck, I'm going to be able to make it. The problem is one of the 12-step groups talks about the first step where, we were powerless and over alcohol or drugs, and that our life become manageable. And the problem is that I didn't think my life wasn't manageable. As long as I was able to get another job and get another job and get another job, then I did not think my life was unmanageable. And so 17 years at the end, I was sitting there. I had no money left. I was about to be thrown out of the room that I was living in, and I called my dad and I was like, "Dad, I did it again." I mean, through that 17 years, I could put together no more than 4 months of sobriety.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll give it to you. The last 30 seconds here is I'm sitting there and I'm devastated because I'm about to be homeless. And there's two things I didn't want to be, was homeless or hungry. Okay. And I made 5 phone calls and called my dad, and he's like, luckily for him, he had read an Al-Anon book. and he's like, "Randy, I just got to let go and let God." And I'm like, "What?" I was like, "What do you mean what are you throwing recovery back at me, And I knew at that point, and my brothers had everybody had been loving me from a distance, but I knew at that point in time that the enabling was over.
Yeah.
And I called 2 treatment centers that I own, that I knew, and there was no beds, no scholarships, and I reached out to a sober living place that I'd been to 9 years ago. And long story short is, he said, "Randy, I hear something in your voice, and I'm gonna let you in with no money and no job, but you got to do the work, and that's what's going to change your life." And that's where my journey started. But I wanted to die every day at the end.
Yeah, that is, I can relate to that, in that my bottom was I stopped drinking, I stopped breathing, so there was no other bottom coming, right? But I had kind of surrendered to that. In fact, I wasn't really looking forward to living another day anyway. So I woke up kind of disappointed the last couple of years, thinking to myself that I'm a teenager, I'm 20 years old. Nobody can live through this forever. And I had the opportunity to die, and I chickened out, and I crawled, and I begged, and I did what I had to do, at least to live. I didn't do like you did, the things I had to do to kind of become a better person. So I stopped stealing, and I stopped drinking and drugging. I left my kind of life of crime and that behind, but I was still angry. I was still unhappy, irritable, discontent, and it took a long time for me to kind of come around to what seems to have happened to you in the first year. It seemed to take, truthfully, 17 or 18 years. I thought recovery and the rooms was good for people like you, nice people, but for someone like me, I just had to toughen up and not drink, and I'll be fine. And that kind of thinking almost killed me. But your story is more, you did the footwork, you did what you had to do, and if my story is a miracle to people like me, yours is that instant psychic change that takes place where I was half in and half out, but there's people like you that get all in for this stuff, and that to me is absolutely amazing. So, was there a kind of spiritual awakening for you? Did you feel like this one day and then this the next day? How did it happen?
Well, let me tell you this.
By the way, Christy Clark doesn't think you're funny.
That's my sister-in-law.
Oh, your sister-in-law. Okay.
And here's the deal. Secretly, she does. Okay? she just doesn't want to talk about it.
Well, who's funnier, you or your brother?
I think actually my twin. I have a twin. Has got a dry sense of humor. Listen. My dad had an amazing sense of humor, so we had a lot of laughs in our house. And my mom liked to laugh too. So that laughter was no shortage in the Clark house. So
that was my home too. We were all kind of crazy.
Yes, so we love cutting up. And in sobriety, when I learned to not take myself so serious, that was a good direction as well. But
that's a topic we're going to talk about, by the way, because that's a topic that's important to me. As people are shocked that I'm a pastor or shocked that I'm not drunk right now. But I think when things got easier is when I stopped taking myself so seriously. And I think when I see people struggle and I hate to say it, but most people don't make it. It's because they take themselves so damn serious that they've made an idol of themselves. They've broken the first commandment by replacing God with themselves, and that's a recipe for disaster. But I feel like that didn't happen to you, or at least you were able to resist that temptation. Explain that to me.
Let me say this. Your first question was, where was the spiritual awakening, or what happened, and was it overnight? And I'm going to tell you that when I got sober, there was nobody standing in my corner. That I know my family in their hearts, they hoped that I could do it, but I had tried so many times, and it was half-heartedly tried. I mean, I always tried to do the minimum in recovery for the maximum results. I looked at the one guy that would stand up at the speaker and say, listen, I got 15 years of sobriety. I never worked a step, and I'm sober today. I'm like, okay, how do I do that? Now, He didn't say his life was full of joy and stuff, but I would never pick the winners.
And that was me. I was that guy. I was the underachiever, like the most of my life has been. But you kind of at some point you seem to have sunk your teeth into it, where a lot of people don't.
I'm going to tell you, my sobriety was directly proportional to the men I had in my life. I had a good, loving family, so I knew what it was like to love and be loved. Okay, I was incapable of loving myself at that time, because I had so much guilt and I had so much shame about not showing up as a father. I had a tape in my head that just kept playing over and over about, you're a bad father, you're a bad brother, you're a bad son, and I couldn't stop the tape. But and that fuels the addiction. And that's not that's not an excuse, but that's what fueled it. Is that, what's one more relapse? What's one more, what's one more? They already know you're not going to make it. They already know that you're going to lie. I mean, nobody expects anything other than you being an addict right now. Mm-hmm. So where it all changed was Joe Bear lets me in a sober house. The next day, a guy shows up that was in the sober house 9 years ago when I was there, and he was a Christian, and I knew I wanted a Christian sponsor, because for me, listen, I love some of the programs, you get to pick your own concept of God, and it doesn't exclude anybody. But for me, I have a Christian sponsor. And one of the most impactful things that's ever been said to me is that you need a radical departure from your old life. I mean, like an abrupt change. And it's only going to be accomplished through the work. I've been shown and told, and seeds have been planted over the last 17 years, different men coming out of my life, tell me this, tell me that. I mean, Joe Bear told me 9 years ago, Randy, it's what you know that's killing you. It's what you don't know that's going to save your life. And that never made sense until I was ready to receive it, you know? And so the radical departure from your life, and that meant the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act, who you hang out with has to change, a complete 180. I had to stop going to meetings and sitting at the relapse table. You know, I had to start going to, to places that I had a good buddy. He's dead now. He died of cancer. And he's like, listen, in early recovery, don't go anywhere you wouldn't take a newborn baby, you know, and, little things like that. And so we got started on the steps immediately. I was in sober living for 4 months. And through that, I was able to complete the steps. And I was at a point in my life where all the seeds that had been planted were being harvested. And I'll tell you one of the most important things that I learned there is I remember laying in bed one night. It's like 10 o'clock at sober living, and Joe walks in and he's like, hey, Randy, can you walk the dogs? And I was like, do I have to? He says, you don't have to, you get to.
Yeah.
And that statement right there changed my perspective on many things in my life. Because if we look at all the things that we think we have to do, if we turn it to we get to do I have to, kids, do I have to do homework? Do I have to clean my room? Do I have to drive 45 minutes to see my fiance? No, you get to. Because I tell you this, I got people right now dying in the street that would love to have a dog walking problem. Yeah. They would love to have somebody stole your peanut butter out of a sober house problem. They would love to have, I got to do my chores around the house problem. So when I turned my have-tos into get-tos, the perspective on life, I have a saying that gratitude fuels my day. There's not a Saturday that goes by in 2.5 years of sobriety that I don't wake up and I literally put my hands on the bed and I'm like, I can't believe that I got a bed, a roof over my head, there's food in the fridge, and that is the foundation of my sobriety, which is gratitude.
And that is the psychic change, and our literature tells us that this won't happen without that psychic change. And
exactly.
The doctor, in the doctor's opinion, can't explain it except that this psychic change is what seems to make the difference. So you were then also says we'll be rocketed into a fourth dimension, right? That we will, a buddy of mine always says he ceased fighting everybody and everything. And the reality of your story right there is a year earlier, that guy wouldn't even trust you with his dog. It was a freaking honor for a guy like you to walk his freaking dog. That's the reality of it.
I'll tell you something real funny real quick. And then I'll back up. About a year in sobriety, one of my friends, Emily, she that I work with, she let me babysit her little son, and it was like a big moment for me. And I take a picture at the mall, and she knows I love kids, and I'm connecting with the little son, and I send a picture to my twin brother, and he's like, Randy, there was a time I wouldn't trust you with my dog, and somebody gave you a baby.
Yeah, how's that for confirmation? I just said that.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
My family would have said, "Where'd you steal the baby?"
Exactly. But those are the kind of things that they'll never know what it meant to me to be able to be a part of this. And later on, and I'll talk about one of my good friends and part owner of this treatment center where I get to babysit his kids. But I'll tell you this. I want to tell you where the real change happened. Not only was I being sponsored in recovery, but I also had a deacon. I walked into Calvary Chapel main campus, and I just was a broken man, and it was a small satellite, and he saw me and he said, "Hey, we don't know you. What brought you here?" And I told him, and he said, "Listen, I said, I'll meet you once a week and I'll work with you, you know." And And I remember about 2 months of sobriety, my sponsor and Scott asked me the same question in kind of a different way. My sponsor says, hey, what do you want out of recovery? And I said, man, that's easy. I said, I haven't had a car in 8 years. I want a car. I want a woman who, sees me for who I, doesn't look at my past, and I want a job I don't hate. And Owen's like, Randy, if that's all you want, you're really going to miss out on the best parts of sobriety, But he's like, but it's your journey,
Mm-hmm.
And Scott says, he said, what's your idea of an abundant life? And I said, hey, that's easy. I want a girl that, that accepts me for who I am. And I want a car. I haven't had one. And I want a job. And he says, I'm going to tell you, if that's all you want, same thing. And I asked them both the same question. I said, well, what do you want out of sobriety? And I asked Scott, what do you consider abundant life? And both of them had similar answers about service and about helping others and about God's love shining through them. And I was like, man, I don't know. I said, I hope I get there one day. And about 8 months of sobriety, 4 months, I got my own apartment, first apartment in 17 years. And because I was always living with somebody, and I'm sitting there and I got a $1,600 car with a tape holding up the windows. And I'm sitting there, and I had just been accepted to work in children's ministry at main campus Calvary. And I had about, 8 or 9 months of sobriety. And that was a big deal because there's Hector there really, told me he wanted to take a shot on me. He saw my heart. And,
mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, life is good. I mean, I got $100 in the bank, and I texted Scott and Owen. I said, hey guys, I got $100 in the bank. I got a daughter that still won't talk to me. Not much. We're texting back and forth, but, it still doesn't fully accept me. I got a car that's falling apart and the windows hold up by tape. I said, but I've got hope. And if you've ever, and if you've ever lost hope, when you get it back, you hold on to it.
Mm.
And I said, I've got a church family that trusts me with 25 kids to be able to teach them what I've learned and what I'm learning in the Bible. And I got a family, who a regular family who loves me today, and I got people who trust me with their kids, at work, and I got my faith, and I'm like, I got an abundant life. And Scott and Owen sent a text back, and they're like, you got it. I said that. I mean,
yeah.
Now you got it, And I'll say this real quick is what I realized at that moment, and it took 8 months to get there. So if you're in early sobriety and you're trying to figure out why you're just hanging on, I'm telling you, if you hang on and you do the work and you do the work and you do the work, I promise you the change will come. But I was sitting there and I was like, the most important things in my life were things I can't lose in a fire. Nobody can take them. Mm. It was the trust of others. It was my integrity. My faith, my hope, my gratitude. So many times in my life, I measured myself by the world or by my status or by my sales stats. And I realized at that point that nothing was going to define me except how I showed up, how I reacted to life, and how I treated others. Yeah. That's my barometer for a good day.
Well, it's a difference between good things and God's best things. Are you willing to work for and wait for God's best in your life? Or are you planning on settling for the next thing that comes along? And that is something that was been drilled into me by my pastor the last few years. Do you think that's God's best? Will this be God's best for you? Is that a shortcut to happiness? There's a big difference, like they say, between joy and happiness. And at the end of the day, I used to be rich and now I'm poor, and I've never been happier. So what does it benefit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? It is that relationship with God, I think, that I liked when I heard your story over the phone, because I can relate to it now well into my sobriety. I've only had that relationship for 12 or 13 years, and I've only really been saved for 9 years. But once you kind of surrender all those other things and get your love order in proper order. Augustine called it disordered love. I kind of call it misordered love, not to correct Augustine, but we can reset the order whenever we want, and as long as God's first, seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and then all these other things will be added to you. Well, has that not been the case? I know the rest of your story, and I know in your case it has been the case. So the fact that we're living God's best, whatever that is, it has nothing to do with what we want or what we think we should have, but that we're living God's best. That's when you're rocketed into that fourth dimension. And I told you off the air, I've been a lot of things, and this is the easiest version of Kevin I've ever been in my life. There's a peace that surpasses all understanding in recovery. Am I right?
Listen, I would tell you this. What changed for me is when I realized that my life had purpose. For so long, my purpose was to be number one in sales and to be at six figures, and it revolved around me getting something. And listen, I'm not a saint, I'm not Mother Teresa, but I will tell you this, that there is no greater joy than be able to bring something to the party when it comes to life, and what I mean by that is that I tell people that the number one reason for many years I got out of bed was for a paycheck. I got up, got to work. Okay. Today, the 10th reason I get out of bed is a paycheck. I got 9 other reasons that fuel my day. I want to make someone laugh. I want to make someone smile. I want to figure out who I can help. And I'm telling you, that sounds like a utopic type of world. And like, nobody lives like that. And you're right. Nobody lives like that perfectly. But I promise you this, if you want to find true joy, which means that nothing outside is going to affect your inside. And that doesn't mean we don't have our good days and our bad days. I'm talking about on a consistent basis. Happiness means something has to happen. New car, new girl, new this. I'm happy. It's situational. But if you want a true joy, when you find your purpose in this life, I've got a few mentors, Owen and Hector and Joe, and I mean these guys, and Scott. And I also listen to a guy by the name of Andy Stanley, and he's like, when you find your purpose in life, find something that breaks your heart and do something about it. And it doesn't mean we don't need CEOs and football players and stuff. The difference is, and there's nothing wrong with making money, just don't let success define you. Yeah. Don't let that be the barometer whether or not your value or your worth, that you're bringing something to the party. For me, I had to make my worth based on something I can control. See, I can't control how many people I bring into treatment. I can't control how many lives get saved. I can't control who gets sober. What I can control is how I react. There's 2 things you can control in this life. How you show up, meaning like how you react to it. And 2 is what you focus on. And I get up every morning and I say to myself, I want to be kind. I want to be generous. I want to be loving. I want to be patient. And I'm telling you, I don't do it perfect all the time, but because that is my true north, him is my true north. If I don't do it right, I got a program that says I get another shot tomorrow.
And the big difference, I think, is in our addiction, we're full of guilt, and in our recovery, in our salvation, we're full of conviction. Guilt keeps us living in the past. It immobilizes and disables us. Where conviction, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to be hypocrites, but that conviction on your heart is going to make you try harder tomorrow. Do that 10th step tonight. Do that 9th step tomorrow, and try to make a difference. Right. So we do every day what we got to do just to get by, the bare minimum. We don't hurt anybody, which is, for normal people that's easy, but not for us. We help somebody if we can. We agree to be reasonably happy, not euphoric, not fart and fairy dust, but that we will be reasonably happy in all circumstances and learn something new. And that type of philosophy is not going to sell a lot of books for guys like Joel Osteen or Tony Robbins. But try doing that 365 days in a row and tell me you're not in a better place or a better person, just happier a year from now. And if you're not, certainly I'll refund your misery. You do it your way, you know?
I think what I want to say to people in early recovery is, if you've tried it your way multiple times, 2 times, whatever, and you're not having success, and you have people like, the steps don't work, or this doesn't work, or that program doesn't work, you know, like Joe would say, look at the evidence and how's that working for you? My point to all that is that I don't care what program you work, okay? If you find a program where you know that you can no longer safely take a drink or a drug based on the evidence of you taking drinks or drugs and bad things happening, if you can find a program that talks about the spiritual malady, which says that I tried to fill this hole inside me with everything other than the God of my understanding. Mm-hmm. I tried girl, money, job, this, and it didn't work. And the reason I know it didn't work because I kept drinking for 17 years until I finally filled it with something intangible, which was purpose and a God. Okay. Yeah. And if you keep going down your chain and say, I'm going to make a list of all the people that I've hurt, I'm going to tell somebody about it, I'm going to look at my shortcomings, I'm going to make amends, and I'm going to take a daily spiritual accountability of what I did right, what I did wrong, and then I'm going to help somebody else. If you can find a program or programs that do that, my recommendation is you need something that, listen, I love where it says in the book, we have a daily reprieve based on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. And many people read that and say we have a daily reprieve based on our spiritual condition. It's not your spiritual condition. It's the maintenance. In early sobriety, like going to the gym, we want to go to the gym one day a week and eat burgers and shakes and wonder why we're not getting fitter.
Yeah. I
had a spiritual feast every day in early sobriety and all the way through. Every morning, 7:45, my sponsor and I, we read Oswald Chambers and we talked about it. I loved what he said. He said, I want you to call me every morning, and I don't want you to check in. I want you to have something viable to talk about, which means you read something, I read something, and we're growing spiritually every day. It's like a spiritual bank account. No deposit, no return.
Yeah. So you ultimately, you can't fill a cup from an empty vessel. So we have to continue to allow God and people through, God through the people around us in recovery to pour into us that we then may pour into other people. Now I'm going to give you a chance to regain your composure and talk to the audience here for a second. I want to thank you guys, by the way, for staying tuned. If you would, subscribe, ring the alert bell. We'll let you know every time new content is uploaded. If you would, comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, comment negative or positive. I'm going to try to answer all the comments on YouTube, not on Facebook. I want to thank you guys, by the way, for your support, your continued support of the Godlogic Project. Those of you that are shopping at Amazon anyway and going to godlogicproject.com first, clicking the Amazon logo, and then shopping as normal. Amazon is sending $1 or $2 to the Godlogic Project, help build and support this ministry, which so far is bleeding to death financially. And the other thing is, if you want to just make a direct donation to the Godlogic Project, paypal.me/Godlogic Project. A few of you have been using that. Every little bit helps. I come out of pocket for the equipment and the expenses that goes to running a podcast like this. I'm glad to do it. And more importantly, if there's anything I can do for you guys, if you need help in any way, email me, godlogicproject@gmail.com. If all you need is prayer, I'll be glad to do it. If you want to be on the show, if you got a story we can tell for God's glory, if you got a story that is compelling, that can help other people, if you just want to get on the podcast and have fun, if we can build a podcast around your story, believe me, I'm willing to do it. That's in fact how Randy and I met. And now we're going to go, I'm going to go back to kind of the victory, kind of what's going on in your life now. So we're talking kind of a guy that is, I think you said you got 27 months, a little over 2 years?
2.5 years, yeah, just under 2.5 years.
Okay, so you're enjoying you've done 1 year twice, right? So you don't really have an excuse that Christmas gets me down because you've done Christmas twice now. So you begin to work after a year, you kind of begin to work without a net. the pink cloud part is over. You recognize the work. In your case, you've had a tremendous spiritual awakening, and we'll go into a little bit of that now. I know you're a church guy. I'm obviously a pastor, so I have to be a church guy. You served in the kids program. I'm forced to serve in the kids program, so that's a high class problem for a guy like me to have, right? Mm-hmm. So you have a different type of life now. So first, tell me about your shirt. What's going on there? What shirt are you wearing right there? Is that zip tie handcuffs on your shirt, or what am I looking at?
That's the Infinity logo. That's the Source Treatment Center. It's a place I call home. Mm-hmm. About a year of sobriety, one of my good friends and part owner of the treatment center, he says, "Hey, let me back up. We've known each other for years. We used together years and years ago, and I was actually standing behind him years ago when somebody walked up to a sponsor, and we had picked up our fifth white chip that week, and somebody said, hey, you need to give up on that guy." Talking about my buddy Bill, and my sponsor turns around and says, "Who are you to tell me when to give up on somebody?" Yeah. And double digit, sobriety later, he's a father at my age, 2 beautiful girls, wife, and part of our treatment center, where his life completely changed. And so, I tell people we're a team of long shots at the Source. Yeah. When somebody walks in the door, if they've been to 20 treatment centers, we don't have the luxury to look at them and measure whether or not they got a shot and they don't have a shot. Bill hates my little sayings, but I got a little saying that it's like, first shot or long shot, you can recover at the Source. Yeah. We don't care.
Well, they don't come to guys like you and me on a winning streak. So, so by the time they call me,
by their door.
By the time they call me,
short of the door when things are going well.
Yeah. By the time they call me, things are generally not going too well, and they've burned down every bridge they've crossed. And so we then you're a recovery professional now, which is awesome, and that is there's so many people choosing to make a career of recovery, and the tragic part is there's plenty of work for that. So there's a lot of people that the opiate epidemic is unbelievable in my part of Florida. I'm sure down by you as well. But there are so many people that need recovery. I get calls 2 or 3 a day sometimes from people that don't know what to do with their family member, that they're at their wits' end. I had a lady ask me if she killed herself, would she go to heaven because her addict son is pushed her to that point. That's a whole different podcast. That's a long theological problem there. But what I'm going to put up your website, but tell me about the Source and tell me about opportunities for people to at least get another second chance at recovery, and what would make the difference if they showed up at your doorstep.
Well, let me answer that in 2 parts. One is my phone rings, Bill's phone rings for people that can come to our treatment center that need help, and people that can't come to our treatment center because of certain insurances. Mm-hmm. That we still have a ton of resources. My job heading up outreach is to figure out how many resources I can accumulate out there to help as many people as possible, whether you're on Medicaid, Medicare. I mean, we don't take Medicare, Medicaid, and things like that, but I got to have resources so when a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister calls me and says, hey, my relative or myself is at a point where I want to die, I need help. I need to be able to help them if they're willing. I've not been able to not help somebody that's willing. There's too many. I'm telling you right now, if you want to be off the street and you're willing to do and go to any links, you do not have to be an addict on the street. You may have to sit in front of a detox for 2 days, or you may have to go to a state-funded facility, but I promise you there's help. Now, the Source in general, there's a lot of places out there that, and I'm not talking bad about anybody, I'm just saying, say they're a family environment.
Yeah.
But my elevator pitch is, we use small groups, no bigger than 12, 13 people, to address the underlying co-occurring and addiction issues. Mm-hmm. we've got two types of trauma therapists in EMDR and RRT, rapid resolution therapy. I did a rapid resolution therapy myself, okay, for the guilt and shame of not showing up as a father for 17 years and carrying that bat around with me. And what he taught me, what Wayne taught me was there's two things that I need to understand about guilt. Number one is there's no alternative world going on that I get to step into and be a better father. And that's a elementary type statement, but it was something I needed to hear. The other thing that he taught me was my past doesn't define me. Yeah. How I live my life today, whether she's in my life, whether she talks to me or not, I can draw a line in the sand and be the best father I can. And that's for anybody out there carrying guilt, shame, remorse. That can be the fuel to bring you back to the bar or the dealer, or that can be the fuel for you to want to change and do the work.
Yeah,
to change your life.
And I teach a very similar topic, that we are throughout our day, throughout our year, and no matter how deep in recovery you are, you have the opportunity to either turn towards the light or turn towards the darkness, and that you're given that choice over and over and over again. The difference, I think, the big difference, it seems to me, of people in recovery is addicts, alcoholics live like they got nothing left to lose. People deep in recovery live like they got nothing left to hide. And it is an amazing, I'm giving myself goosebumps. It's an amazing, for people like us, people that have been through what we've been through, it's hard to explain to a normal person what that feels like. Now, I'm going to put up your website, and I want you to tell me about the source, and we'll kind of focus on the website for a second, and then I'm not going to be able to see you, but they're going to be able to see the website here over the internet. The website is thesourcetreatmentcenter.com. You guys are in Fort Lauderdale. Is that where you are?
We're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Listen, one of the best parts of my job, you said in the beginning, there's a lot of failures in recovery. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing in treatment. I think we've got a better success rate than most, but nobody has it down to a science. But one of the things that is a consistent message as people come and graduate our center is, if you go look at the Google reviews, they talk about they were a family. I had no family. We became a family. And treatment aside, when I decided to get sober, when I was finally at that jumping off point, I really had nobody left in my corner. Not that I wasn't loved from a distance. I had no connection. I wasn't able to connect with anybody. When people come into the source, we wrap them up from the beginning. And I'm telling you, it's a connection where you're not going to share in group, and you're not going to share with your therapist until you feel that connection, until you feel home. And I believe that's one of the things that sets us apart. Okay?
Well, it looks like then the first step would be to call 866-941-9307. They can get a confidential consultation there. You kind of get a snapshot of their situation and what resources are available. They can also get you on Facebook, Instagram, and it looks like you have a YouTube channel too. So there's no excuse that they couldn't find you. It's the source. It's the sourcerecoverycenter.com.
The picture of the source is not up on the screen right now.
Yeah, I just took it down. I've been kind of moving it back and forth, but there are opportunities to reach out to you, and certainly, guys, you can reach out to me. Godlogicproject@gmail.com. Go to godlogicproject.com and message me there. I have this resource, and through the Godlogic Project has become kind of an epicenter of recovery around the state of Florida. There's all sorts of resources available, funding available. They change pretty regularly. Grants start and end, but there are opportunities for scholarships into recovery. If there's a way I can help you, please, mom, dad, cousin, brother, husband, wife, email me, godlogicproject@gmail.com. If I can help you, I will. And believe me, there's a lot of resources like Randy's talking about that could really make a difference. Now, we have a couple of videos from your kind of promotional videos from your treatment center. And I want to play the residential. I'm going to play the interview, the Brett interview first. And it's just a minute long, folks, and you get to watch it. And then we'll get some comment on from Randy on that, and we're going to open the phone lines in a minute, so we're going to do that as well. But here is the video, if I could find it. Here is a video from Brett, who went through the went through the Resource Treatment Center. Here it goes.
Not too long ago, before I got here to the Source, I was in a hopeless state of mind. The pain, the loneliness, it was undescribable. I can't describe to you the pain that I felt. I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die, and I didn't see any way out. I wanted to get sober, I just couldn't. My addiction had its claws in me. I made the decision to come down here. A family member knows somebody from the Source, and they suggested that if that person could get me down here, that they would help me out. I went to a detox. One of the owners came and stuck his hand out to me and asked me if I wanted the help, and I cried and I said yeah. And thank God, you know. Today I feel I'm in a much better place than I was, you know. Like I said, I was hopeless, and the Source reached their hand out to me and offered me the help, and I became willing, and I got honest with myself, and I agreed, you know, to try it out, and I'm glad that I did. They're family now. They're family, and I'm eternally grateful.
That's just a great message. And there, guys, you see the phone number 1-800-204-0418, and of course the Source Treatment Center.
Not too long.
Wait, if I can get rid of this guy, that is the Source Treatment Center. SourceTreatmentCenter.com is the website.
Yes, the SourceTreatmentCenter.com.
All right, and do you know Brett?
Personally, yep.
Brent, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Brent, absolutely know him personally. He's one of our many success stories, and I can tell you this. You know, we give God the credit. The clients do the real magic happens with the clients. It's one addict looking at another addict, and one's got a week, and one's got a month, and one's got 3 months, and one's got 4 months. You know, sometimes I think the clients look at us and they're like, "You guys have no idea what it's like to be a week sober." And like, if you guys only knew,
I still have nightmares about it.
The times where we looked in the cabinet and there was a box of macaroni, and we're like, "Okay, we got food for the weekend. Let's go get high." You know, I mean, like we know what it's like to be in that point where hope is that your hope bucket is very low. But we've got at the Source mothers being reconnected with babies, fathers being reconnected with kids, people that have been to 20 treatment centers now got 4 or 5 months of sobriety, 6, 7 months of sobriety. The long shot. So, you know, listen, don't tell Bill this, but he's heard me say it. I haven't worked a day in 16 months. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So we love it here.
And that's it. We don't have to do these things. Like you said, we get to do these things. We
get to do these things.
I try to discipline folks on when they constantly ask me why this happens, why this happened to me, why this happened to me. You got to ask yourself, if you want to get better, why did it happen for you? How can you grow from this? How can you learn from this? How could you make somebody else's life better from this? I wasted my recovery, but young people, 25, 26 years old, they have 70 years ahead of them to make a difference. You know, or not 70, 50, 60 years ahead of them to make a difference. That the number of lives you can positively affect in that time is unbelievable. Now I'm going to show a video now of one of your residences, and this is almost enough for me to go back out, move to Fort Lauderdale, go to your building, and get put in this beautiful recovery house. You guys do it right down there. It's beautiful. Yeah. I'm going to play that video.
Kevin,
yeah.
I'm not supposed to be able to see it on my screen, right?
No, you'll just see me, and this is going out over the internet, so they're able to see it.
Show the house.
Here's the house.
If you or a loved one are suffering from addiction, we at the Source Treatment Center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, provide a unique family atmosphere while demonstrating a genuine concern for every client, and we're here to help. We offer several clinical and holistic methods of treatment, including brain mapping, rapid resolution therapy, group counseling, and much more. The Source's residential treatment, family therapy, outpatient, and alumni programs are all custom tailored to meet each client's individual needs. Our 5-star residences are equipped with oversized bedrooms, comfortable living and outdoor areas, and luxury kitchens, while providing a clean, safe, and relaxing environment. At The Source, we understand addiction from the same perspective as our clients. We know just how tough getting and staying sober can be. Call The Source today at 1-800-204-0418. We're available 24/7 to help you start a new life of recovery.
All right, well, that's pretty good living right there. I mean, that is a beautiful house. How many residential programs do you run over there?
Well, we've got 30 beds in The Source, and just to let you know, we're pretty excited about the launch of our second treatment center called the Family Place. This is going to be for a pregnant, obviously female, but she can also have a mother that can have a child up to 10 months.
Okay.
So that's a very rare thing to be able to have a facility that'll take mother, and child. That's not a state-funded facility. That's called the Family Place. You can reach us through The Source in order to be able to get a hold of us for either one of those facilities.
All right, that's really important. Now, I've got the call-in number, except I put the wrong call-in number on the screen. So we'll do that again. Let me go back to us here. So the proper call-in number I'll put up now, but we're going to open the phone lines, buddy, and we'll have people call in and see. Hopefully your mom and dad aren't watching, so they don't know all the things you did when you were 16. But it's almost unavoidable at this point. I think they know. I think they know more than we think they know.
Well, I was a good kid. I my last year or two, just I had some opportunities to pick up a drink. It wasn't condoned in our household, but kids will be kids.
Yeah, and that is oh, look, there's the proper phone number now. So the call-in number is 727-600-5837. I got the phone lines open now. As you can probably tell if you've been watching the show now for almost an hour, we have I am also the engineer. I run the podcast while I'm doing the interview, so I struggle to do some very basic things here during the show, make plenty of mistakes. But again, I don't take myself too seriously, and I think that people that take themselves too seriously really make things much harder than they have to be. So you can call us here now, 727-600-5837, and I will transfer you live on the air on the Godlogic Project, and you can comment or ask questions or just kind of say anything you want to say. This is live, by the way, America, and actually other countries too. So I can't stop them from saying things, but I will mute them. But you may want to cover the kids' ears depending on who calls, because this is a rough business we're in sometimes. So the phone lines are open. Now tell me, while we're doing that, tell me about your personal life now. Tell me about the life you live now. You've been blessed in a lot of ways here. So kind of give me some of that.
Well, listen, the first thing I'm going to say is the biggest blessing that I've got going on in my life right now is I'm going to be married March 14th. And I met a woman that has been a Christian her entire life. And the first night that we spoke, I shared my testimony with her, and just as a testament to where she's at with God is she didn't hear pain and hurt of what my life had done to others. What she heard was a story of redemption of how I may be able to help others. And that's where her heart's at. And she's got 3 beautiful daughters, and we all serve. We all serve at Calvary Fellowship in Miramar, and me and her in children's ministry, and they sing and play the piano and work in the coffee shop. And so my biggest blessing right now is being able to attend church and looking forward to getting married to the woman of my dreams.
Well, a lot of healthy relationships end in marriage, buddy. That's been my experience.
That's funny.
All right, we have a caller coming. We have a call coming from maybe Alabama. Caller, can you hear us? You're on the air on the Godlogic Project. Oh, they hung up after 49. We had them on hold for 49 seconds, and they hung up. And they're leaving me a voicemail. That doesn't work on live radio. I'm not going to be checking my voicemails after the show. Hey, Alabama, if you'd like to call back, we'll be ready to catch that call. Like I said, I'm the engineer, and I don't have an assistant, so I don't want to interrupt the guest, but I also don't want to lose the call. So we try our best to kind of do both here, and it's a wrestling match. So if you want to call in, feel free, 727-600-5837. If you just want to talk about how remarkably handsome I am for a pastor, and you got to admit, I'm remarkably handsome. You know, I'm 86 years old. I mean, look at me, 86 years old. So getting sober, you may not live longer, but I'll be damned if it doesn't feel that way. Wait,
funny.
Hold on. Or usually when I tell a joke, you hear this.
That's what happens when I tell my story.
Yeah, I get when I introduce you, the girls go, and when I introduce myself, they go. That's a demonstration, folks, of the what is it? The Rodecaster Pro board that I put in the studio. Very proud of that. It does a lot of fun stuff, and it does a lot of the work for me. Otherwise, I would never be able to do this single-handedly. So it is really has been a plus. So if you're planning on starting a podcast, by the way, where you're going to have multiple guests in studio, the best money you could spend is going to be that Rodecaster Pro, and I'll put a link for that in the description below. And if you buy it through godlogicproject.com on Amazon, I don't even know if it's available on Amazon, but if you do, they'll send a couple of bucks to the Godlogic Project. Now we have Christy Clark. Jessie is an amazing woman, and yes, Randy, you deserve her. How about that? And that's your sister-in-law. So
I love my sister. My sister-in-law has been a big supporter of me for a long time, and she, I don't know. Like I said, I'm blessed with an amazing family that, you know, when I was ready to get sober, they were ready to receive me with open arms. Yeah. And they had to love me from a distance for a little bit there, just because I'm going to tell you, and I want to say this real quick, that if you're out there and you're a parent and you don't know what to do with your son or your daughter, or you're struggling with addiction and you don't know what to do or where to turn, or you got no hope or whatever, I'm telling you, you can, this is not a pitch for the treatment center. I'm just telling you, you can call us at the source, and I promise you, me, Bill, somebody will talk to you.
Alabama's calling back. Hold on. Hello, Alabama. You're live on the Godlogic Project. How are you today? Hello, call from Alabama. Can you hear us?
I can't hear him.
I can't hear him either.
We should get a new sound engineer.
Alabama? Hello? Has something gone horribly wrong on the Godlogic Project? I set up a phone line just for the Godlogic Project. It cost me like $11 a month through tello.com or something like that. And
I can tell you're getting your money's worth.
I got a free phone plugged into my super expensive soundboard, and Alabama can't seem to hear us. Well, I'm sorry, Alabama, we can't hear you. Hold on one second. Wait for it. No, Alabama, I'm sorry. We really can't hear you. So we're not going to open the phone lines. And I don't know how to open the phone lines. I open the phone lines so infrequently that if something goes wrong, I have no idea what's wrong. So anyway,
Kevin, it's hard to get good help.
Yeah, and the let's face it, my assistant's a moron. You know, in and of himself, he's I wouldn't trust me with your friend's dog. Let's just put it that way. And the state of Florida, by the way, lets me raise kids by myself, which would seem to be terribly irresponsible.
I tell my fiance when she's in there watching me in the kitchen and I'm making a mess and I'm fumbling around, and I just look at her and I'm like, I'm fun to watch.
I'm going to try it again. Hold on. Hey, Alabama, can you hear us this time? I can't hear you, Alabama. You can't hear me. And I'd like to be able to tell you why that is, but I really don't know.
I swear that's got to be my mom calling in. I'm serious.
Whoever that is.
She's the only.
Is she calling from Alabama, or is she originally from Alabama?
She'd be calling from Alabama, and she's the only one that would call 3 times.
Well, Mom, damn, we're caught. I was hoping your parents weren't watching. Mom, Randy says he loves you, and he needs to be on a better quality podcast because for some reason the guy answering the phone can't seem to pull it off. No, it looks hooked up. I couldn't imagine what's wrong with it, but something's wrong with it.
Hey, hang on. Did you pay your phone bill?
What? Well, that's why I could take calls if people would support the Godlogic Project.
You tell him, I only had 2 minutes left for this month on my phone.
Hold on again. Hello, Mom. Can you hear us? Wait, do I hear you, Mom? Alabama, are you there? Alabama, do you have me on mute? We actually need somebody from another phone to call to see if it's on this end or that end, I guess.
Here, you want me to call you?
Hello, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
Oh, there you go.
Hello, Alabama, can you hear us? We can hear you.
No.
You're live on the Godlogic Project.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, can you hear us? You're
Okay, I'm here.
You might want to turn off the audio on the show that you're watching so we don't hear it twice.
I can't hear you, but if you can hear me.
I told you it was my mom.
Are you Randy's mom?
Now?
Yeah, can you hear me now? What's Mom's name?
Diane.
Diane, can you hear me? It's Pastor Kevin. Hello, Mom, can you hear us?
God, is that you?
Is that my higher power calling?
Your higher power called collect.
Great, we're going to be in trouble with your mom now.
I know. Yeah. Thanks. Hey, thanks for messing that up for me, Kevin.
Hey, Christy, can you call your mom and tell her we can hear her, but she can't hear us? Your, what would it be, mother-in-law? Call your mother-in-law. Tell her we love her, and we're very sorry, Christy Clark. And I didn't even know they had cell service in Alabama. So that's progress right there.
Well, they have really good, they have really long string and big cans.
Yeah. So that is, at least the boards, at least my $600 board's working, and my my free phone, my $10 a month phone.
Here's the deal. We're not worried about the phone calls as long as your little sounds work.
Yeah, as long as we got the goofy sounds going, I think we're all right. So let's just double check one other thing. Oh, maybe it is me. Hey, try it again, Mom. It might have been me the whole time. So we
did you have it?
The computer.
Did you have it on mute?
No, it was set. You know what I told you? Remember I told you before the show how Apple computers, while 3 times the price, are more reliable. It seems to me that PCs just do whatever they want whenever they want. It's crazy. Mom, if you're watching, it was misset on the computer, or the computer setting was changed unbeknownst to us professionals. So if you call now and you want to say how wonderful your son is and how disappointing Pastor Kevin is, call in again, 727. Wait, it's a call from Alabama, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, here we go.
Hello, Alabama. Can you hear us now? Hello, caller? Caller from Alabama, can you hear us? Mom?
Kevin, you see what happens when we only get one caller?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us? Diane, can you hear us? Too bad this is live. I'd have been able to edit this out, but all of America is going to know I can't answer the phone now.
We got 10 minutes of trying to get one caller. should probably move on.
Okay, well, listen, I think on that note, Mom, I'm sorry. This was Randy's fault, by the way, because an alcoholic never blames himself. We are going to hang up. We're going to wrap things up here, Randy. I appreciate, of course, you being on. It was a pleasure to get to know you in the last couple of weeks. I'm really thankful that you came on and we were able to give your testimony like that. Maybe we can make a difference in some lives of some people. America, if you would, please, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe, ring the alert bell, and give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down or comment any way you like. I'll make sure throughout the week that I respond to all the comments. This will be up for posterity, by the way, buddy. This will be on the Godlogic Project at youtube.com/Godlogic Project pretty much forever. So if we were gonna leave somebody with a parting thought, somebody that is hurting right now, maybe they need a first move. They need their best first move. What do you tell them, buddy?
I'm going to tell them a couple quick things. Number one is my pastor at Calvary Fellowship says it best in one of his sermons. He said, for spiritual growth, information, application, transformation. A lot of people out there get the information, they don't apply it, and then they wonder why their lives aren't transformed, why they're still miserable.
Yeah.
So information, application, transformation. The second thing is that we in recovery need to remember when the new guy walks in that they're broken, that they're hurting. Nobody's ever left the faith or a recovery meeting because we were too kind and too loving and too generous. They leave because sometimes they feel judged. Doesn't mean we need to soft sell them and handhold them, but we can be a little kinder and a little less judgmental on the new guys coming and realize that we were there at that one day. So just because you walk into a meeting and you don't find the right one, don't stop. And I'm going to tell you something that I was told early on. Hang on. This is a journey you're not going to want to miss. That's
exactly right. I'm going to put the website up again. We're going to close out now, buddy. Again, I thank you for being on. Guys, it's thesourcetreatmentcenter.com, 866-941-9307. If there's anything I can do, if you're not able to get to the Fort Lauderdale area, but you need treatment, especially somewhere in the state of Florida, godlogicproject@gmail.com. Email me, and I'll see what I can do for you guys. You can find the Godlogic Project on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and, of course, on YouTube. We're also on iTunes and Google Podcast and Spotify and like 7 or 8 other platforms that nobody uses. But there's resources here, and there's people here willing to help. The folks that work in this industry really do have a servant's heart, and they really do want to help. And so I'm going to close out with this on the screen so you guys know. No one's told you they love you today. God loves you, and so do I. Receive that. Be blessed, and we'll speak soon. Thank you. Hello, God bless, and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty, and this is the Godlogic Project.
Shut up, Kevin.